Hey there, welcome to First Glance with Jody Vance. I'm super excited for this particular episode because it's just a couple of us chatting, having coffee, maybe not, having a glass of wine while we really educate, you're going to educate me on uranium. We're with Fabi Lara, who is an EQUITY.GURU consultant. You've, of course, seen her on the roundtable. You see the investors roundtable. I've watched those. This is our first time getting to know each other, and I literally hit record before we shared any real dialogue because I want to just do it here with our listener, with our viewer. So first and foremost, thank you for doing this with me, Fabi. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Pleasure is all mine.
Before we get to the meat of our conversation, which will be uranium, of course, you're joining us from, well, why don't you tell people, where are you sitting right now?
I am sitting in my home in Portugal.
Portugal.
So, yeah.
No big deal. One of the most beautiful places on the planet. I'm very envious, but I kind of feel like we're kindred spirits because I hear that you are the rarity that is both a dog and a cat person.
Yeah, I am both. I mean, what's not to love about both? Except for obviously the hair that's left all over the place. That I could do without. But apart
Correct.
from that, super cute. Yeah, I love them both. And I actually have a cat tent or
I see
teepee
that.
right
Okay.
here. And
Okay.
my dog is way too large, so you couldn't see anything that's dog related here because my dog is absolutely massive.
What kind of dog?
He's a mixture of a Great Pyrenees with a local Serra da Estrela dog.
I
So it
love that.
means that he is my height when he's standing up fully and
I
very
love a
heavy.
great piano. I've got three dogs sitting on chairs and a
Awesome.
dog that looks like he's peeking out behind a pillow over there. So we are equally crazy animal lovers, which kind of makes us, I'm going to say, environmentally friendly because we care about, we have empathy for animals and we want to
Yes.
responsible. Uranium is a big piece of the responsibility puzzle moving forward. Is that too much of an overstatement, do you think?
No, I think it's been a long time coming that the nuclear insiders would come out and actually say things like this, which are nothing but the truth. And so I'm actually just back from the WNA's symposium, which is the World Nuclear Association. And across the board, people did agree on one thing. I know not everybody agrees on everything, especially when it's industry specific, but they all agreed that we need to tell a better story about nuclear because if nuclear had been an investment of decades past, we probably wouldn't have this energy crisis that we have right now. So yes, absolutely. Uranium is the fuel, not direct fuel, but it changes into fuel that actually powers clean energy. You know, nuclear power does not emit CO2. And it's actually really good for baseload power. You know, I can't think of anything else that works as well, except for obviously hydro, but there are other costs to hydro as well. And you change the environment a lot in order to implement hydro, but nuclear is clean and uranium powers it. So absolutely, uranium is very, very good for the environment.
And you had mentioned we wouldn't be in the energy crisis that we're in right now had nuclear power been embraced more so in decades past. But same could be said for the climate emergency that we find ourselves in had it not been so reliant on fossil fuels to this point, if there had been more of a balance of it. And it's interesting. I have a 14-year-old who did a science project a number of years ago where he really looked at green energy versus fossil fuels. And he keeps going like, why aren't we using more nuclear? Like it just makes it. And he's this thinky kid, right? That he's not all burdened by 3 Mile Island,
Yes.
Chernobyl, Nakashima. No, what's it?
Fukushima.
Fukushima. Thank you. See,
Mm-hmm.
I'm no expert. That's. But there
That's
are
right.
people who are like,
He's a smart kid. And the thing with nuclear is that it's a scary story, right? Once you have an accident, those are
yeah,
very few and far between. So much so we can name three of them that we know
barely
worldwide.
two and a half
Exactly.
actually, two and a half. We
Yeah,
only know.
there you go.
Yeah,
And the thing is, when you actually take all of the deaths that have been caused by nuclear, it comes to, if I'm not mistaken, under 100, all in with everything that's happened throughout
yeah.
history. And you take any other form of electricity generating, then it far surpasses that,
Right.
especially coal. I mean, some countries in Europe are going back to coal. I mean, the pollution that it causes and the impact it has on people's health and people getting sick, that way surpasses anything that nuclear has generated.
Well, we just saw the recent UN General Assembly. They came forward and said this emergency is a direct line to fossil fuels and wanting to outlaw outright any new coal related projects. Like it's not even this side says it's this and this side says it isn't. It just is. The
Yeah.
science says it is, and the science on uranium and the science on nuclear energy is also what it is, despite all the propaganda. So I think that's an important piece of what you and I get to talk about. But there's something about you, Fabi. I should let everybody know we're talking with Fabi Lara on uranium specifically, a Brazilian living in Portugal, who is a regular contributor and consultant at Equity.GURU. And I want to ask you a little bit about who you are, because when you talk about uranium, people listen. You said you just went to a very important meeting about this. Why is that? Why do people listen to you, do you think?
I think people listen to me because I was at the right place at the right time and I made the right decision, which I guess is the last ingredient to becoming recognized in everything. I started investing in uranium stocks and uranium companies in 2014, which was quite early. That's due to the fact that I have a blatant social media addiction.
Love
And
that.
I hear about new things much earlier than the average human. That's why I got in really, really early in Bitcoin, then really, really early in uranium. And that's just my expectation that I am wrong for a long period of time, but when I'm eventually proven right, then I'm proven right by quite a bit. And so it's not that I decided that nuclear energy or found out that nuclear energy was clean energy and therefore decided that I was going to invest in that as a thesis. I just found it uranium in and of itself because of past cycles as a really good investment opportunity. And then found out later about actually this is really clean energy. So for me, it was the opposite.
Interesting. I gotta let that sink in for a second there. You weren't riding the trajectory of trend in the clean energy piece. You were looking at it in a cyclical, this is the
Purely
way, this is the
investment. Yeah,
interest. I love that.
from
I love,
from the mining cycles, right?
yeah.
And so I became attracted to investing in mining stocks. And this must have been 2010. So my first ever investment was in silver in 2010. But it at the top, and I still have the coins. I might start selling them because they're mostly British coins, so they have the queen on them. They've appreciated quite a bit in the past few days. But I always heard about the mining stocks being leveraged to the price of silver, and that really intrigued me.
Mm.
And then I started looking into mining stocks, started to play here and there, and then started to invest also in uranium stocks as a consequence of being in mining.
Okay, I love this. I want to meet you on social media. What's your handle? Because I also have a mild social media addiction.
It's the next big rush.
The next big rush. Okay, I'm at Jody Vance, Jody with a Y. I'll meet you there. We'll
Awesome.
follow each other. I'm
Yes,
going to keep
yes.
up to speed. I want to know it. Now, I like you because I'm a journalist. I'm a broadcaster. I'm not an expert on markets. I'm certainly no expert on mining. I'm a part of Equity.GURU because I bring the stories out of people. Um, but I worked and I've come up in a very male-dominated industry, and I've thrived in it and enjoyed it. When people
Mhm.
say, give me all your bad stories, I'm like, sure. I mean, there's some jerks, but there's some jerks no
Mhm.
matter which industry you're in. But overall, I like it or I wouldn't do it. How about you? You're very much in a male dominated industry. How have you navigated that? Why that choice? Or is it just
I think
process?
it, yeah, I think it just so happens that I tend to have an interest in things that usually attract men. I never set out to be that way. I'm just
Same.
interested in those
I get
things.
you.
I love watching soccer. I'm from Brazil. Yes, okay, that's a bit of a given, but I love watching soccer. I'm growing up, I was very much a tomboy, learned how to play drums, hung out with dad a lot. and was always very interested in business and investing and things like that. But to be completely honest, and the women that are listening to this, if you do have an interest in a male-dominated industry, that would actually propel me into, just working harder in order to do whatever you want to do. Because I've found that, at least in the investing space, I almost feel like people listen to me more because I'm a woman, right? Because it's very easy to sound like just every other guy if you're a guy.
Yeah.
And I think that when there's a woman speaking about things that most women don't usually speak about, people actually listen. I think we are lucky in the sense that we were born in this day and era, which gives us the right to speak up and to have businesses and to have our own investment accounts and to have an opinion and to manage your own money. And yeah, to any women out there, if you think that being a woman may be a detriment to your career, I think it might be quite the opposite.
Yeah, think again. Absolutely. I love that. There's your soundbite that I'd like to put out to the world, because I'm a sports broadcaster by trade at first. I had 17 years.
There you
So
go.
literally just wrapped up a World Cup soccer preview for Al Jazeera English for Qatar 2022. So you and I got to have drinks when you're on this continent, or hey, I could always come to Portugal.
Yes, you're invited.
Thank you very much. Now, speaking of hotspots, let's talk about hotspots for uranium in terms of like, where are they? Who or what are the uranium hotspots right now?
Okay, so when we talk about uranium, you're talking about mining companies in a very similar manner. So you have the tiny explorers, right? They're just looking for uranium, or they found something, but they don't know how much of the good stuff they have in the ground, and they don't know how much it's worth. Then you have the developers, and then the developers are those that have a known resource, and they're trying to ascertain whether they should go ahead and build a mine. Then you have, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 3 or 4 producers worldwide that you can actually invest in. There are very few actual producers right now.
Hmm.
And what you have to look at is, where in the cycle are we, and how does that fit with my personal investing criteria? So the way that I started was, I was looking at the developers because they had an own resource. So I wasn't risking,
Right.
in case they didn't hit, in case they
Yeah.
never found the uranium, I didn't want to take that risk. But the market was really bad when I started. And so I could afford to just, buy the stocks and wait until the market came to us, and the price of uranium itself made it so that the deposits would be worth more. So I
Right.
did that, and I rode that wave. Um, I know I beat this horse till it's dead again 13 times, but I bought, some stocks at 6.5 cents, and now they're, at 140 or something like that. And so I was able to do that by buying the developers. Now, what I'm looking into is a different opportunity, or a slightly different opportunity. I still really like the developers, but what I am trying to do with my money now is take some profits from that, and then I'm placing it in companies that are preferably $10 million market cap or less, but that have a known historical resource, but
Right.
they can't come out and say that we have X million pounds of uranium, because it hasn't been proven up yet.
Right. But
So
they've already had their hit, right? Just
yes,
layman's terms.
exactly.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
so what's happening right now is that there are a lot of former mines in many places around the world, but most commonly in the USA. And they know for a fact that they have uranium in the ground because it used to be a mine, right? But those mines came out of, they were completely shut down. They were decommissioned, let's put it this way, when 3 Mile Island happened, and when the price of uranium went downhill after that.
Yeah.
So you don't take on the exploration risk, but that theme hasn't caught fire yet. But it's
Mm.
something that's very, very likely to happen. One, because they know the resource is there. And so every time that they go on a drilling campaign, you know that something's going to come up, right? You know
Yeah.
the news flow is going to be likely positive. The other thing is that if you go and see what the American stance has been on uranium for the last 12 months, it's absolutely incredible. There is money being put to work. There is all sorts of investments and plans to expand the nuclear fleet in the US, and they want to invest in all stages of the nuclear fuel cycle. And so I think that US uranium is going to be a theme going forward. And I think that the companies that have resources but haven't yet been able to prove that up are going to be a hotspot. So that's where I'm putting my personal money into right now.
And when you do, people listen, and they should, because you just gave us a little glimpse of your track record. And I hope we get to have these conversations regularly, Fabi, because I'm excited for you and excited for our listener or our viewer that's saying, okay, I've been looking for where I should go and what my risk tolerance should be, because there are no guarantees. But clearly you have, when you talk about the 6 cents to 140, I mean, that's a t-shirt, you know. That's really cool. So I'm glad to be able to bend your ear here. Before I let you go, you also are an English teacher to some, which I also think is amazing because you're giving
Thank
back
you.
in beautiful ways. So yeah, I mean, let's make this the first of many conversations about what clearly is a growth space in mining.
For sure. Whether over wine, beer, or coffee,
All of the
we
above.
should do this again.
Let's do it. Thanks for this. Our time has gone by way too quickly, but we'll promise to meet back here again.
Thank you, Jody.